Hello, David Dunn.
Hey, John.
What's going on? We're laughing because this is like the fourth time we've tried to get this going. Usually we do these things by phone, but actually I like this a lot better because we get to see you. So
Yeah, man. Welcome to
thanks for
2020.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being with us. So you are in Nashville, Tennessee. We got it clarified. So you're originally from Texas, now living in Nashville, right?
True. All true.
Very cool. So, well, we love your song "Starting Now." We've heard some of your music before, but it's one of our favorite songs on WBGL right now. I think lyrically, it's really connecting, and we just really appreciate the message that you're putting out there. And we'll get to talk about that here in just a little bit. But before we do, maybe some of our listeners, viewers, first time kind of getting to know you. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do when you're not sitting here on Skype or whatever this thing is.
Um, yeah. Well, I'm David Dunn, originally from Texas, as you said before. Live in Nashville now. I've got a wife. Her name is Lean, and a 2-year-old boy. He'll be 2 in May, actually. His name is Rhodes, and we will have baby number 2, boy, coming in the end of May as well.
All right.
His name is Rocket.
Awesome. Wow. Well, and I don't know. I don't know where you're going with this. I'd love to hear your interpretation of naming a kid Rocket, because I think you're the first person I've ever talked to that did that. Now, if I named a kid Rocket, it would probably be because of my massive fandom of Elton John and the song Rocket Man. But where were you coming from?
Rocket Man. Why do we name him Rocket? Let me think if I can even remember. Oh, I think it's because
You're from Texas and you like the Houston Rockets.
yeah, love those Houston Rockets. James Harden, fear the beard. No, I think it literally was like a my name is David, which is like the most stereotypical Caucasian. Actually, it's any American boy name in the world, or Jewish.
Right.
And my wife's name is Kathleen, and so I think why we picked Rocket really is because it's not stereotypical.
Okay.
We're trying to give him a lease up on life so that he'll have a name that people can remember, as
But
opposed to the name that everybody else has.
that's very good. But you will be playing Rocket Man for him very early in his life.
Oh, you know it.
Okay.
I've already been practicing.
I have a big crush on your headphones. I don't know if you want to give us a plug real quick. What are the make and model of those things?
These are the AKG Q701s.
Excellent.
And these are my mixing headphones. So
Okay.
you got a set?
Well, you said AKG. These are the AKG, but they're not. It's only just the little K52s, so but similar shape. But
Yep. You don't have the green, bro.
you're right.
I actually use these mostly for like studio stuff to go back and forth between. I'm sitting in my studio right now. Most of it's behind the camera, but you've got monitors, which are giant speakers, and then headphones, and the mix between these two. So that's why these are razzle dazzle.
Very cool.
Because I use them to mix with.
Maybe technical question that some people would never know, like behind the music type question, but guy like you who writes songs, sings songs. I mean, are you having to make your own music too and produce it, or you got people that do that, or it sounds like you're pretty involved?
Yeah. This record, Perspectives, that just released, I co-produced. How many songs did I co-produce on that one? I don't know, man. I think 8 of the 11.
Okay.
8 of or 7 of the 11, something like that. So I'm pretty heavily involved in the technical aspect. But I haven't ever done one of my own songs all the way through by myself.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
next project.
Okay.
The thing is here's what I think I've learned is I'm a whole lot more proficient at producing other people's stuff because I'm less biased about things being good or bad. And I don't know, I think this is a little atypical for artists, but I tend to like, I write a song and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the best song I've ever heard in my life. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's garbage or not. And so I rely pretty heavily on other people's ingenuity and even choosing songs, which ones should go on projects. I rely pretty heavily on other people. So maybe at some point, probably the next project I put out in a couple of years. I'll produce a big chunk of it solo. But currently, I don't really trust myself to do my own stuff without another critical eye over the top of it.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think one of the subject we wanted to talk to you today is about the idea of faith and doubt, which is a conversation that is, on one hand, it's kind of, well worn. There's a lot of people that have had discussions about that and shared about their doubt. On the other hand, it's also something that seems like nobody talks about. At least from my perspective, it seems like a lot of people that have doubt like to talk to each other, but a lot of times you don't get the interaction of people who may experience doubt within their faith journey, and then interacting with people who are being like, doubt? What do you mean? There's no doubt in this thing. It's Easter week. We know how this works, and we know what we're celebrating this Sunday and stuff like that. So your song Starting Now, that is just so incredible, references doubt, kind of references it throughout, but especially in the chorus where it just says, starting now, I'm going to trust when I have doubt. You mentioned, learning to let go. And I was just wondering what you'd be willing to tell us about what doubt and faith mean to you.
Yeah. Man, this is going to be a windy explanation, so hold on to your hats.
All right.
The song came about because of fake news, right? And my frustration with not being able to tell what was happening in Washington. There would be multiple news sources that ingest the same facts, and then the narrative that they relayed after ingesting the same facts would be polar opposite from each other, completely polar opposite. So this thing would happen, and this company would go, "Oof, this is what's occurring," and
Right.
then this other one would go, "Oh no, this is what's occurring," and they were literally polar opposite. So my frustration with going, I have no idea what's actually happening, right? It's bias and narrative spin, and I'm not even sure if people know that it's happening. This is the way that it is for these people, and so that extended to my relationship with the Lord. So that's what got me thinking about it, was our current political climate. And then it extended to the Bible for me, is I started kind of brewing on this exact same notion happening with champions of theology, right? There'll be two dudes who will read the exact same passage in Scripture, and they will ingest and then interpret and come up with polar opposite conclusions.
Yes.
Like a radical example is John Piper and Rob Bell.
Yeah.
Right?
That's for
Two
sure. Where one
champions of
tells the
theology.
other to go away because they're not at all on the same page about what this book says.
Not on the same page, even remotely. And so here's really what I came to, is I want to be a truth seeker. The truth is there. The Bible is truth. We know that it's the Word of God. The problem is that humans have to understand the truth. And we are terrible at that, right? We have to ingest. I'm talking to you right now, and you have to understand my words and my intention by looking and hearing what I'm saying. And that is a really hard thing to do. And it extends to the Bible as well. And so I want to be a truth seeker. And here's where Starting Now began, and why doubt, I think, is important. It's because I think the beginning of wisdom, right, in truth seeking, the first step in becoming wise, is in acknowledging that you might not already be right.
It's a hard thing for a lot of people.
Look at the internet. It's a hard thing for almost everyone, including me. Because the problem is, if just spend 2 seconds on Facebook, right, and look in a comment section on any post, and it's full of people who are desperate to reinforce the thing they already think to be true, right? Because nobody wants to be wrong, including me. I don't want to be wrong. I'd much rather be right than wrong. And so I think that extends to any area of our life. And so the doubt that happens in Starting Now, and why I'm putting a positive spin on it, is doubt in your own ability to fathom truth, is questioning whether or not you are correct in whatever you are thinking, is the first step in seeking truth. Is going, I'm fallible, I may be making mistakes, and I want to be open to the possibility of being wrong so that I can find what the Lord's truth actually is. And that's
That's
where
cool.
starting now goes. Is goes,
Huh.
I don't know. I literally don't know, and that's all right, right? But Lord, I want to trust in you as you guide me, that I may not already have the answers.
Hmm. Well, I'm hearing a lot of kind of intellectual stuff in there, so I'm thinking, you started talking about, and I think you said even before you turned your camera on there, you turned your TV news off. So it sounds like you're a guy that's into that kind of thing, which I want to talk about that in a minute. But then also theological concepts, and what do we believe about this? What do we believe about that? And then there's obviously a lot of people talk about their doubt even to the idea of is there a God, or is if there's a God, is he good? Like I was thinking about this song. I don't know if you've heard the song called "Remind Me You're Here" by Jason Gray, but we have it here where
Of
it
course,
says,
I know that song.
"All right," where
I
it's
travel with his son,
you
Kipper
do.
Gray.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
I've been traveling for 3 years. Us two, just hitting the road hardcore.
Wow, that's awesome. Heard some cool things about him. But here's where these lyrics say, I'm not going to ask you for reasons because a reason can't wipe away tears. So you got this pain perspective, and he says, I don't need all the answers. Just be here beside me. And then it says, whether the problem that I'm dealing with is random or if it's providence, neither of those things are a comfort to me. So if it just came out of nowhere or whether it was something that God put in my life, neither of those answers is a comfort to me. Are you cruel if you planned it or weak if you allowed it to be? Half of me is here still believing, the other half is angry and confused. So there you have like a really, I guess, emotional response where it sounds like some of your concerns about doubt are a little bit more in the theoretical sense where you're talking about things like fake news and theological disagreement and things like that. But do you have any of that from an emotional perspective as well?
It extends. So what I do is I have emotional responses, and then I do intellectual investigations. So I start with emotional, and those are my signposts of why are why do I feel this way? What's the truth behind this feeling? Like this all started with frustration, really. It was frustration with not knowing. Is me being upset with not knowing what was, what is. Um, and like it started with fake news, right? With the entire political climate, and then the frustration spilled over. This is, by the way, this is like a year and a half period. I'm not. I don't even know if I'm completely finished
Okay.
developing this.
Yeah.
But it's a year and a half period of me being frustrated because what do I know, right? What do I know? You said a minute ago, and I get a decent amount of questions like this on social media, but you said a minute ago, um, something to the effect of like, how do I even know that there's a God that exists,
Hmm.
right? And my response now in like the last year and a half is to anybody who sends me that on the internet is you don't. You don't know, and neither do I. That's why they call it faith. And asking the question doesn't make you wrong for it. That's a good question to ask because if you're asking, then you want to find the answer, which is the best place to begin. How do you know that God exists? You don't know. You do not know that God exists. I don't either. I believe that he does. And if you want to get really intellectual with it, that extends to everything that we think we know, right? How do I know that you're on the other side of this camera? I don't really know. I'm trusting that my senses aren't lying to me, that my camera's not malfunctioning.
You're trusting that I'm not a robot too, I
I'm
think.
trusting you're not a robot, a Russian bot. There's a gazillion things that we automatically trust as there being reality. That's too intellectual, but you can go down the chain. Everything that we think we know, we actually just believe it. Science is the biggest offender, right? Is that we don't trust, we don't believe, we just know, and it's just not true. I have an engineering degree from college, and I got preached that pretty much all the way through all of my courses. It's not true.
Hmm.
We're evaluating the evidence, and then we believe.
Well, and so yeah, and then you read in the same book that tells you, that there's a God and He is love, and the same book says, basically the essence of faith is believing in what you can't see and what isn't there, and so you have to take both of those things. So I was going to ask you a little bit about your COVID-19 life, and are you watching all of the daily White House briefing room things? Because I had the thought, I was going on a walk here this morning, and I was thinking, I got really frustrated this morning opening up Twitter, and I can't remember whose tweet it was, but I was concentrating on all the comments below, and I think it was based on the president's yesterday, the whatever they call those things in the afternoon where they give the coronavirus update, and all the experts are there. And I got to thinking to myself, well, if I really wanted to know what's being said by the government, by the experts, at least from the official source, I would watch that and kind of make my own decisions. But instead, I don't watch that. I might maybe skim an article for 2 minutes, and then I go down all the Twitter things, and then find myself getting frustrated about that. So what is your take on this? You're obviously interested in politics and government and social exchange and all that kind of thing. But what are you doing on a personal but also just a intellectual level about the coronavirus things?
Well, I'm actually not watching. I am watching the news, but in general, what I have been watching, it's up on the screen, is why I keep looking up right
Okay.
here, it's CNBC. So I'm mostly watching business
Financial
news,
stuff, yeah.
financial news, which mostly is financial, but probably 20-30%. Anytime they do one of those White House briefings, they pop it up because the coronavirus is directly linked to the financial market right now.
Right.
I like, Jonathan, I forgot what the initial question was. I lost my train of thought. What was the initial question?
Well, I'm just wondering what your coronavirus life is like. I mean, you got a young family, so you're doing that. You're obviously an entrepreneur in the fact that you're an artist, and your dates have been canceled and all that kind of thing. And
Yep.
so just what's your coronavirus life like?
Yeah, it's weird, is a big part of that, especially because I just released a record, right?
Yeah.
And normally you release a record and then I'd be out on the road for a gazillion dates all in a row. And everything that I have booked for like the next 6 months is gone. So I'm about to, I'm at the beginning of a 6-month period to where I'm going to be home. So it's odd. It's definitely like a financial shock, right? Because a big source of the entertainment industry is live sources or live shows,
Right.
and it's been quite the roller coaster. There are some blessings involved. Is that my fam is here and I'm getting to hang out with them a ton, and that's been a really fun thing to be a part of. But it has been quite the shock. A lot of sitting in this room, staring at computer screens, and trying to figure out how we make anything work in this new environment. So it's been quite the wild ride.
So what is your financial interest? I mean, obviously you just said it's a financial shock type thing. Are you always watching CNBC, or is the financial part of this crisis? Why is that the most compelling thing to you? Are we back? Oh no. Well, that's not good. My network disconnected. Let me see if I can rejoin this and get David Dunn back in here, because that was an awesome question. I was really looking forward to his